Welcome back, dear viewers. You're still watching Nile Cruise here on Nile TV International. And recently, the president has opened the Royal Vehicles Museum here in Cairo. Of course, the Sharm el-Sheikh Museum, as well as the Kafr el-Sheikh Museum, and a number of important universities as well. And with us to talk to us about these important developments and their role in promoting the key industry of tourism here in Egypt is Dr. Yahya Abdel Kader, a professor, of course, of tourism and former advisor to the Minister of Tourism. Dr. Yahya, always a great pleasure to have you with us.
Thanks so
Dr.
much.
Yahya, of course, as Mohammed mentioned, it's obvious that President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi is paying a lot of effort into enhancing economic tourism in the country,
Yes.
which, of course, is one of our main goals to achieve a stable economy, because tourism is a very important sector to bring us income to our country.
Yes.
From your own perspective, what Mohammed mentioned in his introduction, the impact of what he mentioned on our economy, sir.
Well, it was a glorious day for Egypt because it was the inauguration, the grand opening of the Sharm el-Sheikh Museum, which really, like Sharm el-Sheikh has been world renowned as an international resort for half a century now. But we didn't have, like anything to deal, like with heritage, antiquities, and archaeology. So the opening of this magnificent museum that displays 6,000 selected, like artifacts that, like ranges from Pharaonic, like to Greco-Roman, to Coptic, to Islamic and contemporary, like it has been like a great icon for Egypt. And we have millions of visitors, like who come to Sharm el-Sheikh year round. So they will have, like a chance, opportunity to visit this museum during the tour. And of course, when you look for in depth, like to visit archaeological site, they can go to Cairo Museum, the Grand Egyptian Museum, inshallah, and they can, like go to Luxor on a day tour. So that was like a very, like strategic project, like to be developed and operated. Yes.
Yes. Dr. Abdul Qadir, the idea itself of getting beach seekers to know more about Egypt and to get cultural tourism near to them instead of having to come to Cairo or to go to Luxor. Now we have a museum in Hurghada, a museum in Sharm el-Sheikh, and so the idea itself, how do you see it?
Well, this is really the strategy of the travel and hospitality industry because, well, I lived for a while in the Gulf, GCC countries. For example, like they discovered the average stay of visitors to Emirates, for example, or Dubai, Abu Dhabi is just like 1.8 nights. So they want to extend the stay because the longer the visitor stay is going to be more expenditure and it's going to be enhancing of the destination. So what they did, they don't have enough antiquities, so they contracted the Louvre Museum to open the Abu Dhabi Louvre. The sole purpose is to add culture tourism to the facilities and attractions they have. One, two, to extend the stay of visitors, so because they were going to take longer time to tour these facilities. In Dubai, they had another contract with the Guggenheim Museums in New York, and soon they are going to open it next year, inshallah, another museum. So it was very strategic vision to spread even, because of the antiquities we have. At this museum in Sham, we have 6,000 pieces. You know how many museums can be made out of this? Like about 8 museums at least. So this is like richness of our heritage, our, like antiquities and history. So it was going to be a very attractive location to extend the stay and enrich the experience of visitors who's going to resorts and leisure and diving,
Sir, of course, we all know that Italians and Russians are the tourists that come to Sharm el-Sheikh and Hurghada. The most, of course, percentage of these countries are those that come. Do you think, in light of the new museums that were inaugurated in Sharm el-Sheikh and in Hurghada, do you think that they're going to stop coming to Cairo to watch the other archaeological, amazing, of course, a history that we have here in Cairo, or this wouldn't hinder them or from coming, because mainly when they come to swim, and they come to sit in the sun, and
Exactly, yeah.
come to go and watch the everything that we do have in Sharm el-Sheikh, and this is their target, Sharm el-Sheikh and or Irgada,
Definitely, yes.
not Cairo. Will it be enough, or will they still come over to Cairo?
Well, really, it will be like enough for their tour, but actually, like Cairo, like is a one of the oldest capitals in the whole world. Like
7,000
since
years.
ancient Memphis and Heliopolis and on. Exactly. So Cairo has its own flavor. It has, like it's Pharaonic, it's Coptic, it's Islamic architecture, it's contemporary. Like the Muhammad Ali Pasha and Khedive. Like so you need to spend like 3-4 nights at least to tour the museums in
Yes.
Cairo. We have Bulaq Abu Al-Ila for the
We
royal
have now in
cabbages.
Heliopolis the Bara Palace, which President Abdel just inaugurated a few months
A
ago.
month exactly. So like you need like at least like a week to tour. Like about 3-4 museums and go to Khan Khalili, Shara Al Mu'izz. Like old Cairo, the synagogues, the churches. So we have a very extensive history. Plus, inshallah, the grand opening of the Grand Egyptian Museum.
So they have to target either Sharm el-Sheikh and Hurghada or Cairo, or they can do both
Well,
together.
they
but
can
both
combine
together is
because,
going to be a big.
yeah, when you visit, like long trip of visitors, like coming from Europe or from like the States, you spend like a week, So like you allocate your time slot, like you go to Sharm for 2 nights, you spend 2 nights in Cairo, you can go Alexandria, you can fly to Luxor. Like it depends about, like the package and the tour that you like to do, yes.
Dr. Yahya, sports, of course, must be considered as one of the elements that can contribute to the tourism industry. We see Egypt, for instance, hosting a lot of African, Arab, or even international events. Egypt is going to be hosting the handball men's World Cup in January. It hosts a lot of football, squash tournaments, and football maybe in Cairo and Alex and other cities, squash sometimes in Hurghada or in Sharm el-Sheikh, and others near the site of the pyramids. How do you see the role of sports in promoting tourism, Dr. Abdel?
Well,
Dr.
really,
Abdel Mohammed,
sports-
sports runs in his blood.
Sports really.
We
is-
cannot
is-
overcome an interview without him discussing
Me
sports.
either,
True.
because I'm a sportsman like him. So really, like sports is very essential, like to the development of the countries locally, like regionally and internationally. See, I remember, like for example, we are in a mild part of the world of the temperature. We don't have harsh winters, like we don't have like Winter Olympics. But of course, like look at the Canada, the States, like Russia, like Scandinavian countries, Europe, like Austria and Switzerland, Germany, they hold Winter Olympics and they compete fiercely to gain and hold these, like activities in their homeland because it generates business, it improves the image of the country, it upgrades the social mobility, and generates, like handsome, like revenues for the countries. So, for example, at least I think Los Angeles like twice had, like the Olympics, like in '84 and later after that in Brasilia, like worldwide. So really sports is there's a commercial part of it, like and social part of it. So Egypt, like for a long time, like since the 20th century, we've been, like developing, like we have our soccer team, football, we have like our world, like competitors in the Olympics in Berlin and London and Helsinki all over. So Egypt, like as part of the Arab world and Africa and the Mediterranean, we've been champions and we've been holding lots of tournaments. As Mr. Muhammad, like last week, we concluded the squash championship.
Yeah.
And Nouri Sherbini, like, has been world champion again, like. Yeah. So our athletes, like, are making good progress worldwide in equestrian, like in fencing, we are winning lots, like of awards, like Mayar Sharif in tennis, like in snooker and billiards. So
you're a sports fan yourself, Dr. Abdel Qadir. It's obvious.
I studied, like
sir, in light
recreation.
of the coronavirus pandemic, sir, how do you see the hosting of such matches here in our country, and how do you see the impact of the second wave of coronavirus on our economy here in Egypt?
Well, like I
and
think
the flow of tourists, of course.
we are fortunate, like to some extent, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is protecting us because the Egyptian environment, like because of our genetics, so we are, like surviving, like with this vicious, like onslaught of the corona, the COVID-19. But like we depend, like about the outflows of visitors from Europe, from the U.S., from Asia. So most of these countries have been locked down now temporarily. So we look forward, like that, like the ease, like their arrangements and allow visitors. But me myself, I've been to some Nile cruises across the Nile, and I saw lots of visitors, like from the Gulf, like dining and having good time. I look at the hotels, like across the Nile, the Ritz, the Interconti, the Force, all of them. You can see the lights are on. That means, like these hotels have 60% occupancy. And this is very rare and scarce at this time of a period, like when we have such epidemic that's, like locking down most countries. So we've been lucky for the Ministry of Tourism to open traffic, like since, like last May with our resorts in Alamein, in Marsa Alam, in Sham and Hagara. And alhamdulillah, you remember we had the Secretary General, Mr. Kashveli of the World Tourism Organization. He spent a week in Egypt and he admired the regulations that we took and the procedures that we were following in Egypt. And we became like a role model really for many countries.
Now, back to the museum in Bula Abu Laila, the Royal Vehicles Museum.
Yes.
When should it be ready and to the public, and is it ready, and what does it include so that we'd be encouraged to go there? And
Actually,
I guess it's designed not only for foreigners but for Egyptians.
No.
as well.
This is, like for the public,
Yeah.
like both, like visitors locally,
Yeah.
regionally, and globally. There was like a soft opening, like 3-4 days ago, and I saw, like articles and interviews about it. And really, I plan myself to go very shortly because we've been anticipating this is because this is a unique museum for us and worldwide. There's only 4 museums, like in the world, in Russia, in Austria, and in England. And our museum is one of the earliest museums worldwide. It was like the brainchild of the Khidewi Ismail, that the chariots, like that they were using that time, horse chariots, like most of it were made in Austria and in France, and they were like sent to Egypt. And then he established, like a location, like a plant to fabricate, like and model these, like chariots locally. So there's like 40 of them, and 20 of them had been, like imported, and some of them were sent like as gifts by, like the kings, like of France and Austria, and Empress Eugenie and Napoleon III, like of France. They were sent to the Khedive as gift for the opening, the grand opening of the opera in 1869. So he invested in that, and then he started establishing the chariots. And really, it's a unique location that personally I like to go and invite many people to enjoy, like that, like King Farouk, like on his wedding day, he was taking, like Queen Nariman in one of these chariots. King Fuad, who used to go for the opening of the Shura, or, like Shuyukh Council in these chariots. So it has a historical meaning and feelings, sentiments for us Egyptians, yes.
Okay, sir. Luxor and Sharm el-Sheikh, of course, and Hurghada have been well promoted years ago. What about other countries such as Alexandria, Oasis, and Sinai, as they offer another kind of tourism rather than the classical and the beach one?
Well, really,
Although Alexandria also offers beach.
Yeah, Alexandria offers everything.
Alexandria,
historical, of course.
No, because I ended up the question by beach one. So
Alexandria has
of
it
course,
all, It's really, it's
Alexandria has it all. We need to highlight on Alexandria more, of course.
Of course, you have to market like year round, like 24, I mean, marketing for any product, or commodity, it should be non-stop, like training. 2 things you have to invest and do all the time, because people think, you have the pyramids and people are going to fly to Egypt. This is not true. You have to promote, you have to advertise, you have to launch, So really, Alexandria needs, like some upgrading, like of its sites. And you remember the Greco-Roman, like background it has, and it was a cosmopolitan city, like in the 20s for 100 years, and we have many movie stars, like and celebrities, Omar Sharif, Ahmed Ramzi, Yusuf Shaheen, Kafafis, the great Greek poet, and Lawrence Darrell, he wrote the quartet of Alexandria. So many writers that even Demis Roussos, they were born, like in Alexandria.
Mm.
So it has been the hub of great writers, novelists. I think Simon, I forget his Egyptian,
Musicians.
exactly, that is in Paris now. So Alexandria has its culture, very solid image, and many Egyptians who like go to Europe and live there, reside, they start writing their memoirs in French, in Italian, because it's something. We remember we had the Victoria College with the queens, like kings of Europe with students in this school.
Yeah.
So Alexandria is having its background concerning Sinai. Really, the campus, like of the King Salman University, which like is spread over 3 locations in El Tor, in Ras Sedr, and as well in Sharm el Sheikh. I was looking forward really if they develop a college or department for marine biology, because this is very critical part where you have, like the Gulf, like Dahab, Nuweiba, Ras Muhammad, and there is lots of aqua activities, like diving, sailing, fishing, like cruising, so parasailing, gliding. So all these activities we have to protect, like the marine life, like the corals, like the increase in the temperature is going to threaten it, because this is a living microorganism. The sea creatures, like the sharks and dolphins or whatever, we have to look after them, because this is part, like of wealth and, like marine, like resources that we have to protect and upgrade.
Okay, sir, how do
Absolutely.
you
Great
see the
idea.
new Alamein city in the North Coast?
Well, really, this is going to be a beautiful resort, because with the university and resorts and airport and the facilities, it has been state of the art, so sophisticated, as I heard from lots of visitors and viewers, like especially from the Gulf and Europe. And with the university, they're going to have an excellent hotel school, Lausanne Hotel School. So it's going to be run as a year-round, like resort, as Florida and California and San Diego, not only, like a temporary, like, or a seasonal resort for the summer, 4 summers, 4 months, like every summer. Yes, this is excellent location.
What about Siwa and the Oasis? I mean, and we're talking about medical tourism, and especially nowadays, I mean, medics is everything. So how do we give more care to that beautiful part of our country?
Well, there has been really, like with the new governors in Marsa Matruh, like in Dakhla and Kharga, Oasis, there have been lots of development, like, for example, they're trying to resume flights again back, like instead of, like drive for 10 hours to reach Siwa, and the Oasis. And there's lots of hotel facilities, and they trying, like to grow, like products, like olive, like palm trees, which is very, like indigenous products of this part of the world. And they have the mineral waters, like the sulfuric and the salt, which is many people are reporting it outside Egypt and doing restaurants and facilities, like designing new environment is very soothing and relaxing. So really it has so much treasures apart from the archaeology, like and Greco-Roman antiquities. We remember Alexander the Great, he went to the temple in Siwa, and they told him about the prophecy that he's going to be a great leader and he's the son of Amun and all this. So it needs more development and more investments as well, but for the time being, it's doing well.
Our prominent guest, Dr. Yahya Abdel, former advisor to Tourism Minister. We thank you so much for joining us here on Nile Cruise. Thank you so much, sir, for your informative knowledge. It's always a pleasure to have you with us in every episode of Nile
Thank
Cruise.
you.
Thank you.
I enjoyed this episode.
Thank you. We enjoyed having you.
We enjoyed having you,
Talk
sir.
about sports.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Yahya.
You're teasing me, huh?
Dear viewers, please stay with us. Rana and I will be back momentarily here on Nile Cruise. Don't go away.